Hi everybody, Peter here once again. Thanks for joining me for another Saturday morning session of stories. Okay, before I get into the 3 stories today, I just want to say very quickly, thanks to everybody who joined Simon and I on the live stream the other day. It was really incredible because we decided to hook up all the equipment because obviously Simon's in Thailand, I'm 6,000 miles away in the UK. And we had to go through all this different software and make sure the mics worked and everything was, everything worked properly between him and I and YouTube. And we decided to go live just for a couple of minutes just to test it out to make sure it was working okay. And as I said, it was totally unscheduled. We didn't plan it and we thought we'll go on for 5 minutes, test the equipment. We might get 1 or 2 people notice, but generally they nobody will notice and we'll know the equipment's working. And believe it or not, we ended up staying on that live stream for 2 hours plus. It was more than 2 hours and we had about 80 people join us in the chat. I thoroughly enjoyed it actually. It was nice to connect to people. I believe Simon did, but that's the way forward. So we'd love you to join us. Just join in the conversation, leave your comments and we can actually respond to them on the spot as it were. Okay.
สวัสดีค่ะ
So, right, today, 3 more stories. These are still popular. And as I always say, as long as you guys send them to me, then I'll keep reading them. The last story I've got for you today is very solemn. It's a totally different story to what I normally read out. I won't give any clues away at the moment, but it's a harrowing story. You'll just have to wait till we get to the 3rd story. But the first 2 stories, usual scenario guy, foreigner goes to Thailand, meets a bar girl. And, I think you know how most of this is going to go. So let's kick straight off and I'll get straight into the first story. And as always, all names have been changed to save the, keep everybody anonymous. Okay, so here's story 1. My story starts in May 2018. I was planning a trip to Thailand for September that year. I joined a dating site called the Thai Cupid. I had a message from a Thai lady called Pom, 26 years old at the time. I was 45. Pom told me she worked at CM Paragon in Bangkok. I saw photos of this, so had no reason to doubt her. She also told me she had 2 children from a Thai ex-boyfriend. I did not mind that. We spoke every day for about 2 weeks, then nothing. I thought, never mind, it's not like I met her face to face. And then about 2 weeks after that, she contacted me again, telling me that she had a problem with her phone. I was surprised and very happy to hear back from her. We chatted every day and then September came along and I finally flew to Thailand to meet her. We visited Chiang Mai, Phuket and Hua Hin. It was a great holiday. On the last night of the holiday, she said, why don't we buy friendship rings from the MBK Centre, which we did the next day. I flew back to the UK thinking I was in a serious relationship. Pom started telling me that she had debts to pay and that she gave up her job and had moved back to Kalasin, which I did not understand, but I started sending her 10,000 baht a month. 10,000 baht's probably about £225, $250 US. The baht rate's up and down, but around that sort of figure. I made plans to go back to Thailand in March 2019. We would talk every day on social media, and then 1 month before I was due to go back, Pom told me that she's had problems with her phone. I said I would buy her a new one, but she refused. I found this strange after the stories I had read. After that, I lost contact with her again. I flew to Bangkok in March hoping that she would be there, as she knew the date and time I was arriving at the airport, but there was no sign of her. I hung around for about 30 minutes and I had to leave as I was tired. I headed to my hotel. I had flight tickets and a hotel booked for me and Pom to see her family in Khon Kaen. I also had tickets to Koh Samui with her. I still went as the tickets had been paid for. I felt very low at this time. My friends suggested that I make friends with another girl. I was not in the right mindset, so I was glad when the holiday was over, as I have never felt like that before, and Thailand is a country I love. About 2 weeks after my holiday, Pom got in touch with me and said she was so sorry that she did not meet me. She went on to tell me that her mum was sick and her phone had broken. I did not really believe her. However, we continued as always, but she started to ask for more money. Like a fool, I sent her 20,000 baht a month, so he's now doubled his payment. By now, I was a friend on her Facebook page, so I left nice comments about her. An American guy who lives in Thailand saw I wrote on Facebook and contacted me. He told me that Pom and him were together before I met her and they are now friends again and they were going to Chiang Mai that weekend. He showed me the messages between them, so I knew he was telling me the truth. When I confronted Pom about this, she apparently blocked the guy on Messenger. The American guy confirmed to me that Pom had now blocked him from messaging her again in the future. Pom said to me, and I quote, "So sorry, me had to do for money as family have nothing." I was a bit pissed because I'm supporting her with good monthly income and she had to do this with this guy behind my back. Pom promised never to do this again and I forgave her then in June of 2019. I flew back to Thailand again and met Pom and stayed in a hotel in Kalasin. We took 10 family members out to dinner. We then went to Khon Kaen with her family. Pom and I then flew to Phuket on holiday. I asked Pom, "Can you post my photo with yours on Facebook because of the problems we had with the American guy?" She refused. I said, "I don't want to support you anymore because I'm not sure what you're doing." In the end, Pom posted my picture on her Facebook page along with hers. I had been back in England for about a month when a Swedish guy contacted me. He said he had seen me on Pom's Facebook. I hope you don't trust her too much because only last month I sent her some money. She also sent some naughty photos to him. He showed me everything. I felt sick. We had a big argument. She blocked the Swedish guy, but he did not want to be with her anyway. Their relationship had apparently only lasted a month. After this episode, and out of the blue, Pom sent me a message telling me that she had now blocked me on Facebook and went on to say, "Sorry, David," and showed a picture of her with another foreigner, Phalang. A month after this, she unblocked me and told me sorry. She went on to say, "Had to do that for money and she is not with that guy too much and I'm always the best for her. Could I send her some money for her daughter's birthday?" I was beyond angry and I told her, "If you don't stop sending me messages, I will show your current boyfriend your messages." The new guy is now on her Facebook profile. The Swedish guy who warned me about Pom also warned this new guy. I feel bad for him and just wanted to share this story so people know it's not only bar girls who lie to Phalang. Some girls with regular jobs can be just as bad. Since then, I have been in contact with a different Thai girl since January of last year. She is a director of education and also runs a successful food business with her mother. We video chat every day and she has never asked me for money. She is also different to Pom. So I guess the moral of this short story is yes, many girls you meet in Thailand and on Thai dating sites will be out to scam you and you should not get into relationships with these kind of girls. But how do you know what she is like on her first meeting? My mistake is that all the warning signs were played out in front of me and I chose to ignore them. Most guys are not stupid. If a girl starts messing about with other guys while you are seeing her or she is constantly asking for money, move on. It's simple. It's a cliche but true. There are so many more fish in the sea and as difficult of a minefield the dating scene is in Thailand, many nice, normal, decent girls are available for serious relationships if you take the time to look and don't jump into the first relationship because this girl speaks English well and is forthcoming. Okay, right, that's reminded me of something that somebody else told me. Before we go into the second story, I just want to... in the beginning of this story I've just read out to you, he said she was working in wherever it was she was working, and I didn't doubt her because she sent me photographs. Guys, those photographs don't mean anything. I'll tell you a story that was told to me. There was a guy in Pattaya. He met a girl. He wasn't stupid. He knew the score. He knew what it was all about. It started off that he was seeing this girl as a casual kind of stopover at the hotel. You know what I mean? And she was a nice girl. He enjoyed her company. So she started stopping over more and more. And you know, the feelings start to come into it, don't they? And eventually this guy had to go back home. And he said to the girl, I don't know if it was his first time in Thailand, a little bit naive, but I'm just conveying the story to you. He said to her, "Look, I don't mind, supporting you. I'll stay with you. I'll send you a bit of money each month. But what I'm not going to put up with is you sitting in your room doing nothing or continuing to work in a bar. And she promised him faithfully, no, I won't do that. I'll find a job. And he said, right, look, I'll do a deal with you just to prove to me that you're different. If you get a job, a regular job, and you prove to me that you're at work and you're working every day, she didn't have to prove to him every day, but she had to prove that she had a regular job and she was there and it was serious. He said, I'll support you. I'll send you money to increase your small salary. And at least I know you've got a regular job. You're waiting for me. I'll come back over and we can be a couple. Yep, fine. And this is a true story, apparently. What she did, she went to her local 7-Eleven where her friend was working, did a deal with that friend that she could go into that 7-Eleven for 100 baht. They went into the back room. The friend took off her 7-Eleven shirt and her cap, gave it to this girl. The girl put on the 7-Eleven shirt, put on the cap, phoned the guy in America and said, yes, darling, I'm working in 7-Eleven. I can't talk for long because I'm on a break. I'm in the storeroom. If my boss catches me, I'm in trouble. Well, you know, if that was you and you seen a girl in a storeroom with a 7-Eleven cap on and a 7-Eleven shirt and she said she was on a short break and she had to get back, what would you think? Exactly. So this is what happened. The guy believed it, no reason to doubt her. As soon as the call was hung up, she had a good excuse to keep it short. Off came the shirt, off came the cap, back to the real 7-Eleven employee, and the girl went about her business, probably went back to work in another bar. So don't, you know, if you're one of those guys and you see photographs and you think, I can believe it because I've seen the photographs, no, you can't. Right, okay, so let's crack on with these. I've got 2 more stories here and they're quite lengthy, so let's crack on with the second one. Okay, here we go. I am from the United States. I recently retired from my job and I was bored with my love life. I started watching videos and reading blogs about Thailand. I eventually signed up for the Thai-friendly dating website while I was still at home in the States. There were many freelancers and ladyboys on the website. After a couple of weeks, I met a stunning lady that ticked all the boxes. She was 35 years old, a Thai girl living in Korat. We communicated on the Line app for approximately 1 year prior to me arriving in Thailand. She was charming. I was charmed by her good looks and her childish behaviour. She would send me these little cartoon hearts and stickers that the Line app offers free of charge. The date was approaching for my planned trip to Thailand. I was not totally convinced that she was being honest with me, so I had my guard up. I was still watching YouTube videos and reading on the internet about all the Thai girlfriend scams. I decided to go to Pattaya first to see what all the hype was about. I told her I had to meet some friends first before I visited her in Korat. I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express on Soi Buakhao for my first 5 days in Pattaya. I walked the streets enjoying all things Pattaya has to offer. I was always thinking about the girl in Korat, but some of her messages seemed not true. At times, they didn't seem true at times, and I had my doubts, but I decided to take a chance and hop on a bus to Korat. I arrived at the bus stop at Terminal 21. It's in a mall in Korat. I caught a tuk-tuk and went to the hotel that I had booked. I was still a little suspicious about her being the same girl that I chatted with for over a year online. Her name was Dao. She showed up at my hotel and she was as beautiful as her pictures that she'd sent me online. We started our first date by she took me into the city centre and we gave tribute to a statue in the centre of Korat. The date went well and we went to one of her favourite food pubs called 8 Bistro. A little backstory about Dao. She works at an insurance company, has no children and is 35 years old. From the beginning, I never lied to her and I told her I have 2 grown-up children. I would not want any more children. At first, she said she was okay with not having children together. Then she started hinting she wants a baby because she never had a child. So now I'm staying in a couple of different hotels in Korat. Dal would stay with me every night, get up to go to work while I went around and explored the city. Every night around 7, she would show up and I would take her to wherever she wanted to go and eat that evening. We would go to night markets, restaurants, nightclubs in Korat. She appeared happy with my company and I was happy with a beautiful girl by my side. Her English language was basic. Me personally, I only know a few words of Thai, but we seemed to manage with small talk and Google Translate. She introduced me to her many girlfriends. They're all lovely girls. I went on many trips around Korat with her and her friends. She has a car and a little room that she rents for 3,000 baht a month. We were always busy doing something. Dal brought me to Jim Thompson Farm, not to be confused with Jim Thompson House in Bangkok. We also went to Pattaya for a long weekend and went to some tourist attractions, the Sanctuary of Truth, etc. The time soon had passed quickly and eventually I had to make a visa run to Cambodia. Dal stepped up to help me and took time off work, and we drove to the Cambodia border to Poi Phet for my visa run. During this time, Dal never asked me for money or brought me to any place which was expensive. I was really starting to feel good things about this girl. Dal even brought me to her parents' house in the countryside. Even though they did not speak English, I felt her mother and I got along very well. I felt bad for Dal, seeing the way she was brought up in a little poor village and a little apartment she is living in. By the way, Dal kept her apartment immaculate. That's something about the Thai girls, guys. They're very, very clean. You know, they wash 3 or 4 times a day. They keep the apartments clean. It's just in their nature. I even bought her a gold ring as a present. After a while, I noticed Dal was more moody and distant. Whenever I tried to talk serious with her, the conversation never went anywhere. I decided to take a break and told her I do not think we are meant for each other. A few reasons for my feelings changing with her were because she would get very moody if I tried talking about any long-range plan with her. Also, Dal would never open her heart and talk to me about anything serious. I decided to contact her again to see if she wanted to talk. I said maybe everything was going too fast in our relationship and I should give her another chance. When she arrived after our short breakup, I noticed the ring was gone. She said she lost the ring, plus she now kept asking for a few thousand baht every once in a while. I was able to find out that she'd just split up from a Thai boyfriend a couple of weeks before I arrived on the scene. Possibly the Thai boyfriend was still involved, and that's why she was always so distant with her feelings. I never got concrete evidence, but sometimes you get a gut feeling about things. I cut my losses and called it off with her. I was heartbroken and alone in Korat. I felt maybe I should leave, but I stuck it out in Korat another month because I found a great little 3-month rental for 5,500 baht a month. So I stayed in Korat until the lease was up. I went back on the dating site like the trooper I am. I love the weather, the local vendors and everything else Thailand has to offer. I decided I will retire here one day, probably not Korat, but definitely Thailand. So getting back to my story, I found another girl on the dating site that got my attention. Her name is Gunn. We chatted and talked for a week on FaceTime messages. I later found out Gunn is actually from Laos. You might think that's a strange name, guys, but that is actually a Thai girl's nickname, Gunn, as in shoot the gun. Her English is very good. She had a boyfriend from Denmark 6 years prior to meeting her. We both were interested in meeting in person. She said if I cover her expenses, she would meet me in Korat. Now I thought I saw a scam. So I said to her, how about you find your own way to Korat on your own? I will reimburse you when you arrive. To my surprise, she agreed. She lives about 18 kilometers from Nong Khai, Thailand. She travelled approximately 10 hours on a bus to meet me. I was shocked when she said she was at the bus terminal. By this time, I had my little studio apartment all set up and I managed to find a used little Honda Click scooter that I'd bought. At this point, I had only a couple of weeks left on my studio room lease. I did not have any expectations about falling in love. Gunn and I got along great, and again, I still had my guard up. Gunn was totally different and completely honest with me. We really liked each other. After 10 days, I told her I was going to wrap things up in Korat and we would see each other soon. Now, maybe some people might think I'm a fool for the next thing I did, but my heart felt it was the right thing to do. I messaged Dal and told her I was leaving Korat. I decided to give her all my small appliances and sign the motorbike over to her. I really have no bad feelings for her. I can be friends with Dal, but we are not a good couple. My next stop was Bangkok. I had a friend I met on an expat forum who had been living in Thailand for 3 years. As soon as Gunn arrived back to her home in Laos, we kept in touch every day. She would tell me how much she liked me and wanted to see me again. I agreed to see her again. Gunn took another bus from Laos to Pattaya. It's quite a journey for her. I planned on another trip to Pattaya with my expat friend Steve. Gunn showed up at the bus station in Pattaya. We had a great time together, going to the attractions and enjoying each other's company. We both think alike. I started getting feelings for her. We made a plan. We would travel to Bangkok for a few days and we would return to our own homes. Gunn to Laos, but this time I bought her a $40 airplane ticket. It's not bad, is it? $40. And I returned to the United States February 23rd, 2020 to sell my things and rent out my condo so I could return to Thailand to be with Gunn. We all know what happened after 2020 and all bets were off. Our feelings have never changed for each other. We talk every day and I think we can have a future together. I'm hoping this situation around the world will be over sooner than later and I can return to the land of smiles. Who knows? It might not work out, but then again it might. I for one am willing to throw caution to the wind and give my beautiful girl Gunn the benefit of the doubt and once again try. I've noticed from some of these stories that I've been reading out over the last kind of 6 months or so, 9 months, it seems to be quite a common theme that comes up, that there are some guys who got into relationships with girls and it was seemingly going quite well, like this one with Gunn. And I don't remember which story it was, but there was a similar story I read out to you guys. And the same thing happened. Two people were in a great relationship. I think it was a lady who worked in the bank, if you remember that story. The guy who had the motorcycle accident. He went on a motorcycle trip up north somewhere, had an accident. His lady worked in a bank. They were getting on like a house on fire. It would have developed even further, but the same thing happened as is his story. Everything that's going on at the moment happened and it put the brakes on everything. So I'm sure there's a few relationships that would have done a lot better if it wasn't for the current situation. Okay, so on to our third and final story today. This isn't a relationship story, and I warn you now, guys, this is quite a depressing story. It's a true story. It's a little bit, take me about 15 minutes to read it to you, 10 minutes, something like that. I wasn't sure whether to read this to you because when I read it, I felt a bit depressed, to be honest with you. But, you know, the channel's about all things Thailand and this is relevant. So I thought, hey, why not? Let's read the story out. You can tell me what you think about it in the comments afterwards. But as I say, let me just read it to you guys. Okay, so the title of this last story, it's called Banged Up in Thailand. This is an account of a friendship I made with a girl serving a 50-year prison sentence in Thailand. On the 15th of March 2004, when the sun was at its highest, my Thai wife and I left the Central Women's Correctional Institution in the north of Bangkok. It was during my time in Thailand, after talking with a friend, that I became aware it was possible to visit an inmate in Klom Prem. Making merit is an everyday part of Thai life that basically means doing good things. Usually this will come in the form of making a donation of food or money at the local temple. But one can also make merit to literally anyone. Thais strongly believe they ought to regularly make and gain merit, which would bring them happiness and a peaceful life. Gaining merit will strengthen them to overcome any obstacles or misfortune they are suffering. By visiting the ladies' prison, we felt we could not only make a significant difference in someone's life, but we would also be giving something back to Thailand in return for all the wonderful things it's given me and my lovely Thai wife over the years. I'm just going to cut in here, guys. It's really important to tell you that the lady I'm talking about, she's actually, she came over from Australia. She's not a Thai. And when I read out the story, I wasn't sure when I was first reading it, but so she's not a Thai, basically, okay? We had been given an inmate's name from a good friend of ours who had previously visited a lady on a few occasions. Her name was Katie, and she was currently serving a 50-year prison sentence. Katie had been arrested in 1999 while trying to board a plane leaving Bangkok with a suitcase containing illegal drugs. Whilst travelling around, I have sought the opinion of fellow Brits and Thais on this matter. Some are sympathetic, but many take the view that people that commit serious crimes deserve everything they get, a sort of no more to discuss, show no mercy attitude. However, as I see it, the problem is that a verdict is never quite as black and white as pure guilt or pure innocence. Any grey areas should also be considered. Although we didn't actually gain permission to see Katie on our first visit, we did find the visit quite an experience, having visited the prison shop, where it's possible to make a donation of money to buy food or small items of toiletries for inmates. Since that first time in 2004, we have visited Katie on numerous occasions and over the years Having got to know her, it has become obvious that despite her moment of madness over 20 years ago, Katie is indeed a very bright young woman with a wonderful attitude, personality and outlook on life. No doubt that is something that must from time to time tire a little, but she has never given up hope. There can be no excuses when it comes to the severity of drug smuggling in Thailand. Make no mistake, the Thai government has zero tolerance when it comes to drug trafficking and woe betide anyone who is caught in possession or in any way found to be dealing with any illegal drugs. If you're caught in possession with drugs trying to board an aircraft, your only hope is that you are from a country that has a good relationship with Thailand, and then only then might you evade the death penalty and be sentenced to a life of imprisonment in Bangkok's overcrowded 82-cell prison. In Thailand, unless you're lucky enough to receive a king's pardon, life means life. I'm sure many people would say at this point, and rightly so, anyone who has lost someone or has known anybody that has suffered from drug abuse would testify to that. However, it's my belief that when one person gives their heart to another, in Katie's case her boyfriend, in such circumstances they will not doubt trust anything the other tells them. Maybe after hearing Katie's story it will mellow your viewpoint. Does the punishment fit the crime? This is an issue that has been and will no doubt continue to be debated for years to come. In the grand scheme of things, I guess a decision should remain within each country's own judicial system, but here's my take on this sensitive issue. Any punishment should never last forever. Some of the poor souls serving long-term prison sentences have been completely forgotten about on the outside. The resulting despair of being forgotten was never prescribed by any court of law. I guess many of us have all done things from time to time we are ashamed of. I know I have. One moment in our life seems perfect and we are happy. Then the next moment we can suddenly find ourselves in a situation that causes us great unhappiness. Maybe it all sounds obvious, but it's still a lesson everybody needs to learn and understand for themselves. I guess no one will understand that more now than Katie. In the lifelong learning process, there are twists and turns that can never be predicted, and sometimes we are just victims of our own circumstances. Katie, for whatever reason, has no doubt had to endure many hardships, but still, it's always a heartfelt moment when I visit her to speak to her so rationally and composed, in total acceptance of her current predicament. During my time spent with Katie, she has talked openly and rationally about her life. One thing that sticks in my mind was when she told me she cannot remember the last time she slept without her arms tucked in closely by her side. Due to the overcrowded cells, there is no room whatsoever to spread out, not even a little. I have heard stories where prisoners in the UK have their own TV, radio, CDs and DVDs. In Klong Prem, there is nothing. Our topics of conversation covered pretty much everything. We discussed modern day living, technology, advances, mobiles, phones with video, the sky train, the internet, favourite ice cream, the meaning of happiness, finance, Singapore, Malaysia, religion, sorrow, alcohol, family life in her homeland of Australia and prison life in Thailand. We also talked of the son that was now taken away from her after giving birth just a few months after being arrested. At the young age of 19, pregnant and coaxed on by her boyfriend, Katie travelled to Thailand for what she assumed would get their life back on course. This was a complete and irresponsible mistake she had made. She was apprehended at the airport on the 31st of January 1999 and subsequently incarcerated for 50 years. Katie gave birth to her son Jack in June 1999. 8 months later, her son was repatriated to Australia, and since then, with the father no longer around, either has moved from one foster parent to another. Mother and son have not seen each other more than twice since then, let alone hold each other and hugged. I was so saddened to learn of the despair of being separated from her son. This must be extremely hard to endure. While speaking about her son, I could see the hurt in her eyes. Very sad indeed. We also talked about my family life in England and my family's life in Thailand. And after a few anecdotes here and there to lighten up the proceedings, clearly a very articulated woman and always very polite. It was extremely interesting to listen to her, always thoroughly enjoyable conversation to be had where neither of us were ever lost for words. She explained that she was always very trustful of others and would often give her love unreservedly. She was also the adventurous type and very determined and would pursue with energy anything that she wanted. As it turned out, this was her downfall. I thought back to my younger days when there were times I always thought I knew what was best and wouldn't take advice. Luckily for me, I made my mistakes in England, where leniency is very normal. Katie realises that her misdeed has brought untold pain and suffering to many people. Words cannot describe her remorse, and she regrets for breaking her remorse and regrets for breaking the law. She has had much time to reflect on her actions. She has never been violent or caused any problems while she has been in prison. She has come to understand many issues. She has grown and matured. She is now more responsible and more resilient to temptations in any form. Over the past 20 years, Katie has developed a profound understanding of people and cultures, learned the Thai language, reading and writing, realised her purpose in life and what she still has to offer, especially and foremost to her son. Her wish one day is to move back to Australia and take full responsibility for her precious son. She also expressed the wish, once released, to be involved in education and coaching in drug prevention programs for the Australian youth. The last time I saw Katie was on the 26th of August 2019. It was a time once again when I was filled with great emotion. Although sometimes a twinkle in her eyes shows some tiredness, she always is in great spirits and has somehow managed to perfect that Thai smile when we meet behind the glass. I had to ask Pat about this because, again, she isn't Thai. He was just saying because she's been there so long, the Thai smile has kind of rubbed off on her. She has a Thai smile now. Not too much more now. On certain occasions, the royal family can grant a general amnesty to all inmates. This is usually in the form of a reduction of a 1/6 or 1/8 of the original sentence. This can be a royal birthday, etc. Katie's sentence of 50 years has already been reduced to 28 years as a result of 3 amnesties. Just recently, myself, my wife and a few other friends of Katie's have got together from across the globe, and we are currently all writing to His Majesty the King of Thailand in the slim hope the remainder of her sentence, 8 years, will be granted a royal pardon. Although the chances are very slim, we feel there is nothing to lose by putting some pressure on her request for a royal pardon. I realise this particular story is quite harrowing. Quite harrowing on many levels, and people will no doubt be very divided in their opinions, some judgmental and some sympathetic, but that's okay. My main purpose in writing this is for those of you who perhaps want to experience something a little bit different away from the bars and the waterfalls, then please consider taking a moment out of your day and making merit yourself in this way. You don't have to actually see an inmate, as in many cases I realise that can be a longer process with a need for certain visiting rights and appointments, etc. But you can easily visit the prison shop where, as I mentioned earlier, by filling out a little slip, you can purchase a few small items we all take for granted, such as toothpaste, toilet rolls, soap, tin food, sweets and various other relatively inexpensive gifts. I know from my own experience this can lead to hard-written letters from time to time, should that be something that you might welcome receiving. Needless to say, a quick Google search will provide a bit more background to inmates and visiting procedures. Okay, so quite a deep story there, and as I say, it's not normally the sort of story I'd read out, but it was touching, and I think the main message that I'm getting from that story, I'm trying to lighten it up a little bit now because it's quite a heavy story, wasn't it? I think the main message for me is just stay away from drugs. I keep telling you, if you can't stay off drugs in Thailand, don't go to Thailand because very harsh punishments. Once caught, you'll regret it. All right, so that's it for the 3 stories this week. Again, guys, I don't know what time I'm uploading these 3 stories because I pre-make this video for the Saturday, but if it's before midday, 12 o'clock UK time, just a reminder, the live stream with Simon and I will be going up at 12 o'clock UK time, 7 p.m. Thai time, and that's today, and it's going to be on this channel for this week, and then we'll give you details when it moves over to the next channel. All right, guys, that's it from me. I'll catch you I'll catch you later on today. So hope you'll join us in the live chat later on. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure Simon would as well. Okay, thanks, guys. We'll see you later.